In 1536, the English court sparkled with gold, but beneath that glitter lay an unbearable stench of fear. The walls of the luxurious Whitehall Palace absorbed the dangerous whispers of courtiers awaiting disaster. You see the world through the eyes of a lady-in-waiting, the daughter of a peer, who finds herself at the center of political intrigues. There is little time left before Queen Anne Boleyn's arrest, and the air is thick with tension. Allow yourself to immerse in the atmosphere of a bygone era, through the lens of vivid physical sensations. We're used to seeing the Tudors in portraits, wearing silk dresses and sporting perfect hairstyles. However, the life of a lady-in-waiting in the 16th century was filled with hard work and psychological pressure. Every morning turned into a struggle against the biting cold, exhaustion, and the invisible danger posed by the monarch. Let's walk this path together and discover exactly how a lady-in-waiting's day began. You arrived at Henry VIII's court just 3 months ago, with high hopes for a brilliant future. Your family spent their last savings to have proper outfits made and secure this prestigious position. But instead of a fairy tale celebration, you discovered a gloomy labyrinth of suspicion and etiquette. Here, golden brocade garments sit side by side with rotten straw on the floor and icy drafts from the windows. Your every step is watched by dozens of watchful eyes, ready to spot the slightest mistake. The date is frozen on the calendar, May 1st, 1536, an ordinary morning that will forever change your fate. The Royal Country Palace at Greenwich is shrouded in thick fog rising from the River Thames. The corridors smell of burning tallow candles, stale sweat, and the Queen's French perfume. A lady-in-waiting's life is governed by a strict schedule, with no room for personal desires or solitude. It is time to open your eyes and face this long, exhausting, and terrifying day. Prepare to learn the whole truth about life at court for the unfortunate Anne Boleyn. Our story is devoid of Hollywood romanticism and the glossy glamour of popular historical novels. We'll talk about bloody blisters from corsets, numb legs, and the bone-chilling fear of betrayal. Tension in the chambers has reached its peak, and the invisible noose around her neck is tightening ever more. Let's begin a detailed chronological journey into that misty May morning. The loud tolling of a bell shatters the night's silence. At exactly 5 a.m., you open your eyes instantly, feeling the familiar heaviness throughout your exhausted body. The ladies-in-waiting's room is still shrouded in darkness, pierced only by the light of a single dim oil lamp. The icy air instantly stings your face, reminding you of the complete lack of heating in the castle. All around you, you hear the heavy sighs of weary young women forced to wake up at the first call. Another long day of demanding service to the crown has begun without delay. Your sleeping quarters consist of a low, narrow pull-out bed, called a truckle bed. At night, it is placed right at the foot of Queen Anne Boleyn's magnificent bed. Such close proximity to the monarch is considered the greatest honor for any family in England. In practice, this means a lack of space and the constant fear of disturbing someone else's sleep. The rough straw mattress has become worn out over months of service and now feels hard. You toss aside the woolen blanket, trying not to make a sound on the wooden floorboards. An icy chill pierces the soles of your feet at the first touch of the room's bare stone floor. In the 16th century, carpets were considered a luxury and were used only to decorate the walls. The floor in the ladies-in-waiting's quarters is covered with dry reeds, which are rarely replaced to save money. Rodents and insects often scurry beneath it, drawn by old food scraps. You instinctively search for your leather shoes to protect your feet from the dampness, even if only a little. A chronic runny nose is a constant companion for the inhabitants of this enormous palace. The room has a distinctive odor typical of wealthy residences from the Tudor era. Here, the scents of wax, animal fat, damp wool, and unwashed human bodies mingle. Bathing, as we understand it, was absent at that time for medical reasons. It was believed that water opened the pores of the skin, allowing deadly plagues and diseases to enter. The ladies-in-waiting would merely lightly wipe their faces with a piece of linen cloth dampened with rose water. This meager washing did little to refresh them after a night's sleep. Nearby, on similarly low beds, several more daughters of English peers are waking up. They all belong to impoverished families seeking patronage and a profitable marriage. In the darkness, The silhouettes of the young women are visible as they hurriedly pull on their linen undershirts. No one dares to complain about the harsh living conditions or this early rise. Showing any dissatisfaction could result in immediate expulsion, bringing shame upon the entire family. You tie the ribbons on your simple garments, preparing for your main duty of the morning. Your task for the next few hours is to ensure that the Queen of England looks flawless. Anne Boleyn is still asleep behind the velvet curtains of her four-poster bed. During this historical period, the lives of monarchs unfolded in full view of dozens of loyal servants. The Queen was never left alone, not even during her nightly rest or private conversations. You kneel by the bed, waiting for the moment your mistress awakens. This moment is always accompanied by the inner trepidation of an inexperienced young woman. Finally, the heavy curtain stirs, and the quiet voice of the awakened Queen is heard. The clock reads exactly 5:30 a.m., and the fog outside the window begins to gradually lift. You rise to your feet, overcoming the intense pain in your stiff joints and lower back. The other ladies in waiting immediately light the candles, and the room is flooded with yellow light. Anne Boleyn's face looks pale and weary from hidden anxiety. She looks at you, and you bow low in a deep courtly curtsy. Your physical state in the first few minutes after rising can be described as constant stress. Your hands tremble from the cold, and your eyes water profusely from the acrid smoke of the tallow candles. You must act quickly and as carefully as possible so as not to anger your mistress. Each item of clothing is presented in a historical order, strictly defined by centuries of tradition. Violating this sequence is considered a serious insult to Her Majesty and is punishable. You take the Queen's heavy undershirt, made of the finest, most expensive silk. The silk feels cool against your hands, but this contrast only intensifies the overall sensation of the morning chill. You help Anne Boleyn remove her nightgown and slip into her morning camise. The Queen remains silent, her dark eyes gazing into the void past your face. You notice how much her shoulders have thinned during these 3 months of your service. Rumors of King Henry VIII's dissatisfaction have long been circulating among England's high nobility. You push away these dangerous thoughts, focusing on the folds of fabric in your hands. Morning light begins to slowly filter through the narrow windows of the Greenwich Palace bedroom. The second stage of dressing begins, requiring physical exertion on your part. The ladies in waiting take their usual places according to the strict court regulations of the 16th century. A long and exhausting process of creating the image of the Queen of England lies ahead. You silently pray that this day will pass peacefully and without anger. We move on to the next stage of the morning. The clock strikes exactly 6 a.m., and grueling work begins in the royal bedchamber. Now it's time to lace up the Queen's ceremonial corset, made of stiff leather and whalebone. In the 16th century, a woman's silhouette was supposed to resemble a perfect inverted geometric cone. The ladies in waiting spend about 40 minutes just tightly lacing these leather cords around the back. Their fingers quickly develop calluses from the cords, and their back muscles begin to ache intensely. The Queen sighs deeply every time you pull the edges of the corset tight with force. The lacing process requires the perfectly synchronized movements of 2 trained maids of honor. One holds the Queen by the shoulders, while the other pulls on the stiff laces. The whalebone digs painfully into the Queen's ribs, causing Anne Boleyn to turn pale. You feel beads of cold sweat forming on your forehead from the strain. No complaints from the maids are permitted within these sacred walls of the court. You tie the final knot, feeling your fingers grow almost numb. Immediately afterward, the painstaking process of styling the Queen's dark hair begins. This procedure takes exactly 1 hour and requires precise movements. The hair is carefully combed with heavy combs made of ivory. Then it is coated with goose fat pomade, which smells of cloying musk and lavender. This greasy mixture holds the elaborate hairstyle in place throughout the long day. You hold metal hairpins in your hands, passing them to the senior lady in waiting at a signal. Now comes the turn of the main fashion element, a headpiece called a gable hood. This structured bonnet resembles the gabled roof of a Tudor-era cottage. It is made of thick cardboard, covered in black velvet, and lavishly adorned with pearls. The structure is secured at the nape of the neck with dozens of sharp steel pins and ribbons. Putting on this headpiece requires the precision of a jeweler and immense physical patience. You hold your breath as the pin passes close to the Queen's delicate skin. The headdress puts pressure on the neck, forcing the head to be held unnaturally upright. You see the Queen wince in pain, but she immediately assumes a regal expression. 16th century court attire was designed to demonstrate boundless power, not comfort. You help smooth out the heavy velvet folds of the skirt over the sturdy wooden hoops. Every movement in this outfit requires immense effort and prior practice. Next comes the dress made of French crimson brocade. The fabric is embroidered with gold thread and adorned with precious stones along the entire bodice. The weight of such a luxurious garment can reach as much as 20 kilograms of gold. Together with another lady-in-waiting, you carefully lift the dress, taking care not to crease the folds. Anne Boleyn takes a step forward and literally sinks into this heavy, magnificent garment. You begin to fasten the tiny buttons on the sleeves with a special hook. The room grows hot from the presence of people and the burning wax candles. The scent of lipstick mingles with the aroma of wine, which the queen drinks to regain her strength. You feel this suffocating mixture beginning to make your head spin. But a lady-in-waiting has no right to show weakness or ask for a short break. You are required to remain on your feet throughout the entire 2-hour dressing process. Your back feels like stone, and your fingers continue to ache intensely from the cords. Finally, the Queen of England's look is complete, and she is ready to appear before her subjects. Anne Boleyn gazes at her reflection in the polished dark metal mirror. Her face looks flawless thanks to the skillful application of harmful lid-based white makeup. However, you notice a slight tremor in her slender fingers, adorned with expensive rings. This hidden nervousness spreads to the ladies-in-waiting around her, making their hearts beat faster. The queen turns toward the door, and the hem of her dress glides across the reed-woven floor. You quickly rise to your feet behind her, taking your place in the solemn mourning procession. Your duty now is to carry the long, heavy train of her dress. The fabric presses down on your arms with its full weight, forcing you to tense the muscles of your shoulders. The young women line up in pairs, observing a strict hierarchy based on family lineage. The senior lady-in-waiting signals to the guards, and the heavy oak doors swing open. The procession steps out into the cold corridor of Greenwich Palace, heading toward the chapel. The clock is nearing 8 a.m., and the palace is waking up to a new day. A cool draft from the gallery refreshes your flushed face, making you clench your teeth. Ahead lies the grueling task of standing through the morning church service, which demands endurance. We move smoothly on to the next chapter of the morning, where the Tudors' religious duty intersects with politics. You take a deep breath and stride confidently behind the monarch across the icy flagstones of the corridor. This solemn royal procession brooks no fuss or display of human weakness. The procession slowly enters the royal chapel at exactly 8 a.m. inside. The building is bathed in semi-darkness, illuminated by hundreds of candles at the high altar. The air is thick with the scent of incense, mingling with the musty odor of the old walls. Queen Anne Boleyn steps forward and takes her place beneath a sumptuous velvet canopy. You are required to stand directly behind her shoulder, remaining motionless throughout the entire, lengthy service. Your primary task now is to become a silent statue, radiating humility. The icy marble floor draws the warmth away through the thin leather soles of your shoes. In the 16th century, religion played a central role in the daily life of the English court. Henry VIII strictly demanded that those around him adhere rigorously to all church rituals. Mass is celebrated in Latin, and the priest's monotonous voice echoes beneath the vaulted ceiling. You feel your knees beginning to go numb from standing motionless for so long. Any awkward movement will be immediately noticed by the court's strict overseers. You gaze at the back of the queen's head, crowned with a black velvet headdress. She stands motionless, her hands clasped in a prayerful gesture before her ample bosom. But you notice how tense the muscles in her neck are beneath the golden chain of her necklace. The tension in the chapel's air weighs heavily on the shoulders of all the courtiers present. The men of the council sit across from her, fixing cold stares on the queen. It seems that even the holy icons on the walls are looking at us with a certain unease. The sound of the organ suddenly shatters the silence, making my weary heart start. A choir of young boys begins to sing psalms, and their clear voices soar toward the ceiling. This beautiful music is meant to uplift the soul, but today it evokes only melancholy. You shift your weight imperceptibly from one foot to the other, trying to restore feeling to your toes. The pain in your lower back from the train of your dress becomes physically unbearable. A true lady-in-waiting must always possess the endurance of a soldier and the grace of an angel. During Mass, any conversation or direct eye contact between courtiers is forbidden. You are forced to look straight ahead, studying the patterns on the royal velvet canopy. A careful glance reveals that King Henry VIII himself is absent from Mass. His personal carved chair to the left of the altar remains empty this morning. This is a clear and dangerous sign of the monarch's displeasure, portending nothing good for the Boleyns. The ladies-in-waiting begin to exchange anxious glances, realizing the gravity of the situation. Time drags on slowly, turning every minute into torture for the body. Your eyes begin to water profusely from the thick smoke of incense and the soot from the burning candles. Your stomach growls with hunger, for you haven't eaten anything since last night. Thoughts of simple food seem sinful in this holy, solemn, and gloomy place. Anne Boleyn makes a deep bow, and you are required to repeat the movement in sync with her. Your dress rustles as it brushes against the cold stone floor of the old chapel. This deep bow is an enormous struggle for you because of your tightly laced corset. The stiff whalebone presses painfully against your lower ribs, cutting off the flow of oxygen to your lungs. For a second, your vision darkens, and it feels as though you're about to fall into a deep faint on the floor. You frantically clutch the folds of your own dress with icy fingers. If a lady-in-waiting were to fall during the royal mass, it would be a massive scandal. You take a slow breath, forcing yourself to stand despite the mounting physical pain. The priest raises the golden chalice, signaling the end of this long church service. All the courtiers present bow their heads low in a final reverent gesture. You feel a slight sense of relief, realizing that this part of your duties has come to an end. Anne Boleyn slowly rises from her seat, and her face becomes inscrutable once more. She does not look at her ladies-in-waiting, lost in her own dark thoughts. You carefully gather the heavy hem of her dress to continue on your way. The procession leaves the royal chapel in the same strict historical order of the ladies-in-waiting. It is exactly 9 a.m., and the sun has already risen high above the misty River Thames. New faces, courtiers and foreign ambassadors, appear in the palace corridors. They all bow deeply to the Queen of England as she passes by. But there is a sense of insincerity in their bows. You can feel these unfriendly glances on your skin, as if they were piercing your weary back. Now we are heading to the dining hall, where breakfast is to be served. This transition from tranquility to the hustle and bustle of court life always happens in a flash. Your feet gradually begin to pull away from the icy cold flagstones, causing a sharp pain. You must maintain perfect posture, despite the intense fatigue throughout your entire body. The Queen walks with a firm stride, demonstrating her unyielding pride to everyone. We move on to the next chapter of the morning, dedicated to Anne Boleyn's breakfast. You prepare for the new trials that await behind the doors of the royal chamber. It is 10 a.m., and the Queen's breakfast is beginning in the dining hall. The air is filled with scents different from the sacred fragrances of the royal chapel. Now the air smells of roasted meat, freshly baked bread, strong ale, and spicy sauces. Anne Boleyn takes her seat at the head of a long oak table, set with silverware. You once again take your designated place behind her, ready to carry out any command. The long ritual of the meal begins, where every movement of the servants is strictly regulated. Your duty during breakfast is to stand behind the lady and keep an eye on her goblet. The servants respectfully present Anne Boleyn with heavy silver platters of hot food. In the 16th century, the table was laden with a vast array of meat dishes. Even in the morning, there is roasted game, fatty beef, delicious fish pies, and marzipan. The Queen merely touches the food lightly with her knife, eating practically nothing. She absent-mindedly breaks off a piece of white bread with her slender fingers, adorned with rings. The clatter of silver plates echoes through the vast hall of Greenwich Palace. Seated at the table are the highest-ranking ladies-in-waiting and relatives from the powerful Boleyn clan. The conversation flows sluggishly. A general sense of tension and inner unease hangs in the air. Everyone is trying to joke and smile, but these smiles look like masks on their pale faces. You stand motionless, and the smell of rich food makes your hungry stomach cramp painfully. A lady-in-waiting must forget her own hunger and think only of her mistress. The chief steward enters the chamber, carrying a jug of sweet French wine. He bows deeply to the Queen and pours the dark liquid into a large silver goblet. Anne Boleyn takes a sip, trying to regain her confidence and calm her trembling nerves. The wine quickly goes to her head on an empty stomach, bringing on a slight, feverish flush. She begins to speak a little louder, addressing Sister Mary, who is sitting right next to her. You listen intently to her every word, for this is part of your secret duties. A 16th century court breakfast is an important and dangerous political event of the day. Foreign diplomats at the far end of the hall are closely watching Boleyn's every move. The imperial ambassador, Eustache Chapuis, stands by the wall, his hands tucked behind his heavy velvet cloak. He keeps his piercing gaze fixed on the queen, watching for any sign of weakness. You can feel that cold stare spreading throughout the vast room. The atmosphere grows increasingly stifling, despite the cool spring breeze. You notice that once again, key figures among the monarch's supporters are absent from breakfast. The tables reserved for the highest nobility appear empty, which is a bad omen for the Boleyns. The queen tries to ignore this, continuing to converse about the upcoming spring hunt, but her smiles cannot fool those closest to her right now. You see the vein in her neck throbbing violently beneath her beautiful pearl necklace. Anne is on the verge of a breakdown, even though the Tudors were masters at concealing their feelings. Breakfast is drawing to a close, and the servants begin to clear away the silver dishes. Your legs ache terribly again from standing for hours on end, without the slightest chance to sit down. Your shoulders ache from the weight of your own skirt, made of heavy English wool. But you must remain completely still and maintain a passive expression until the very end. Any sign of fatigue is punishable by a hefty financial fine for the family. You make a subtle movement with your toes to restore blood circulation to your joints. Anne Boleyn pushes away the silver goblet containing the last of the dark, strong wine. This is a signal to the ladies-in-waiting present that the queen's morning meal has come to an end. You quickly take a confident step forward, ready to hand the lady a clean linen napkin. The fabric is infused with the delicate scent of rosewater, which masks the unpleasant odors of greasy meat dishes. The queen absent-mindedly wipes her fingers and rises from her luxurious carved chair. Everyone present immediately stands, bowing low in a deep mourning curtsy. The procession lines up once more behind the monarch to return to the private quarters. The clock reads exactly 11 a.m., and the sun is beginning to break through the thick gray clouds. By this hour, the tension at Greenwich Palace has reached its peak. You can feel this invisible fear literally hanging in the air above people's heads. We smoothly transition to the next chapter of the morning, where secret rumors will become clear facts. You grip the silk train of your dress more tightly and take a step after her down the corridor. With every passing hour of this May day, England draws closer to its denouement. You realize that behind the glamour of the morning breakfast lies the personal tragedy of great men. Your young mind will forever etch these forced smiles and cold stares into memory. None of the Boleyns yet know that their fate has already been decided by King Henry VIII. You continue your silent service, step by step, delving deeper into the palace's secrets. We now turn to the next part of our story, filled with the whispers of the galleries. The procession slowly returns to the royal chambers at exactly 11 a.m. However, instead of the usual bustle, you notice a strange silence in the galleries. The courtiers are gathered in small groups, whispering to one another in fear. As soon as Anne Boleyn approaches them, the conversations cease instantly, replaced by smiles. You feel a chill of fear beginning to seep beneath your silk garments. The atmosphere around you resembles the eerie calm before the storm of the Tudor era. As the daughter of a modest peer, you have keen hearing, which helps you survive in this place. As you walk past the heavy tapestries on the walls, you catch snippets of the courtiers' terrifying remarks. The names of the queen's close friends are passed from mouth to mouth, like a deadly poison. You clearly hear someone utter the name of the young musician Mark Smythe. This talented man has always enjoyed the special favor of Anne Boleyn herself. But today, his name echoes through the corridors of Greenwich Palace, with a distinct, funereal, and ominous undertone. You manage to learn the news that explains all this morning's tension. Royal Minister Thomas Cromwell arrested Mark Smitten the day before yesterday, April 30th, 1536. The musician was secretly taken to the minister's London home for a brutal interrogation. Rumors claim that the young man is being beaten into confessing to a criminal affair with the Queen herself. At this thought, your heart begins to pound violently, and your hands clench the fabric. You realize that this is the beginning of the rapid downfall of the powerful English dynasty. The whispers in the galleries grow louder as noon approaches. Court officials are naming the men Cromwell has already summoned for questioning. Among them are Henry Norris, Francis Bryan, and the Queen's brother, George Boleyn. All these noblemen were shining at the tournament just yesterday, and today their fate hangs by a thread. Anne Boleyn walks ahead, her head held high, crowned with a velvet headdress. She pretends not to notice the frightened whispers behind her back. In the 16th century, marital infidelity toward the Queen of England was automatically equated with treason against the state. This meant an inevitable and agonizing execution for all those involved in the trial. You look at the pale faces of the other ladies in waiting, who walk steadily beside you in the procession. All the young women understand perfectly well that Cromwell's merciless noose could be tightened around their necks as well. Any one of us could have been a witness to the Queen's conversations with the men who had been arrested earlier. Animal fear paralyzes the mind, forcing our feet to move mechanically across the floor. The scent of fear at the Tudor court has very specific physical manifestations for a person. Your mouth goes dry, and a heavy, sticky lump of nausea slowly rises in your throat. You feel cold sweat trickling down your back, beneath the stiff leather corset of your dress. The armed palace guards at the doors now eye the lady-in-waiting with obvious suspicion. It seems as though all the luxury of the Golden Palace has turned into a stone trap in an instant. You continue to drag the heavy train of your dress, feeling like a condemned woman on the scaffold. Anne Boleyn suddenly stops in the middle of the gallery, bringing the procession to a halt. She turns toward the enormous window, beyond which the gray and cold River Thames is visible. Her fingers clench convulsively around a small golden prayer book adorned with precious stones. At that moment, Thomas Cromwell's loyal servant approaches her with a stern expression. He bows deeply, but his dark eyes no longer hold the former respect for the monarch. The man delivers a brief verbal message from her powerful husband, Henry VIII. You are standing close enough to notice how pale Anne Boleyn's face has become. The great king demands her presence at the May tournament in Greenwich in 1 hour's time. But this sudden order sounds like a veiled death sentence, rather than a joyful invitation. The queen nods silently, without uttering a single word in reply to Cromwell's servant. The man turns and walks away, his heavy boots clattering loudly on the stone slabs. We continue on to the private chambers, where the historical atmosphere grows even more ominous. There is very little time left before noon, and the tension begins to turn into panic. The Queen's ladies-in-waiting try to huddle closer together, seeking imaginary protection in each other's company. Old friendships forged at the Tudor court crumble in an instant in the face of the threat of death. Everyone begins to think only of saving their own lives, and those of their families. You silently curse the day your family sent you to serve a doomed queen. We move on to the next chapter of the morning, which will reveal the terrible secret behind your duties. Court gossip has an uncanny ability to destroy powerful alliances. You can feel in your bones how an invisible web of espionage is entangling Anne Boleyn's chambers from all sides. Not a single word spoken here will remain a secret from Thomas Cromwell. Your maidenly innocence has collided with the harshest reality of 16th century high politics. You must continue to fulfill your duties, despite the soul-chilling personal horror within. We open a chapter dedicated to the choice every court lady faces. It is approaching 11:30 a.m., and the reality of the situation is becoming terrifying. You now clearly understand that the status of a lady-in-waiting conceals the duties of a spy. Every noble lady-in-waiting is required to immediately report any conversations her mistress has to the king. Any conversation Anne Boleyn has in private with men must be recorded for Thomas Cromwell. Refusal to report is automatically equated with a charge of harboring a traitor. You find yourself in a trap where any choice could lead you straight to the English executioner's block. This terrifying Tudor law leaves no room for honor, mercy, or loyalty. If you remain silent about a suspicious word, you will be executed alongside the Queen as an accomplice. If, on the other hand, you inform Anne Boleyn, you will ruin a woman's life forever, just to save your own skin. You feel this agonizing moral dilemma, literally tearing your mind apart with terror. The stiff whalebone of your corset presses against your chest, preventing you from taking a deep breath in this room. All around you are frightened young women, any one of whom could be a secret spy. You recall a secret conversation with your father before leaving for the court of the great King Henry VIII. An experienced, impoverished peer sternly warned you to keep your mouth shut and keep your eyes open. He knew full well that the royal court was a dangerous place for an innocent English girl. Now his historic words take on a sinister and very concrete physical meaning for you. Your family had hoped for wealth, but instead received a deadly threat to their daughter's life. You clench your cold fingers frantically, trying to hold back the tears of despair welling up inside you. The chambers smell of herbs that the maids are burning to soothe their mistress's nerves. The queen herself sits by the window, her pale profile looking lifeless in the sunlight. She knows that among her 60 ladies-in-waiting, there are many obvious informants hired by the cruel Cromwell. She no longer trusts any of us, looking at her maids with obvious suspicion. The atmosphere of mistrust is destroying the last remnants of human dignity within these gilded walls. You stand by the oak door, feeling like the jailer of a prisoner sentenced to death. Every rustle of a dress or accidental sigh is now perceived as a potential threat. You're afraid to meet the gaze of your friends, with whom you were sharing girlish secrets just yesterday. Any one of them could be fabricating a false accusation against you right now to curry favor with the minister. Espionage at the court of King Henry VIII has reached the proportions of a brutal, state-sponsored paranoia. You feel like a grain of sand in the millstones of history, which grind destinies to dust with a crunch. Your body continues to obey court etiquette, but your mind is in a state of deep shock. You realize that tomorrow, May 2nd, 1536, could spell the end of all this luxury. If Cromwell's spies gather enough accusations, Anne Boleyn will be arrested and sent to the Tower of London. Along with her, all her close ladies-in-waiting may also be arrested for biased interrogations. At the mere thought of the dungeons of the Tower of London, your knees begin to tremble with terror. You swallow hard, trying to maintain a regal composure in the face of danger. This primal fear is impossible to hide beneath expensive blush and courtly white makeup. The senior lady-in-waiting motions for you to approach the table, to carry out a new assignment. Your young heart does a frantic somersault in your chest, and you nearly faint from fear. You slowly make your way toward Anne Boleyn, your heavy long skirts rustling against the dry reeds. The queen asks you to fetch her ceremonial silk scarf for the upcoming May joust. You bow deeply and make your way to the heavy trunk containing her belongings. Trying to walk steadily, your hands are shaking so badly that you have great difficulty opening the wrought iron lid. Inside the chest, the air is filled with the scent of dried lavender, silk, and the old wood of the queen's furniture. You take out a thin silk scarf adorned with an embroidery depicting Anne Boleyn's emblem. This emblem, a white falcon, was, until recently, considered a symbol of grandeur and royal good fortune. But today, this noble falcon looks like a wounded bird caught in Cromwell's trap. You close the chest and return to the lady, carefully holding the precious fabric in your hands. Your every move is being watched by enemy spies standing against the opposite wall of the chambers. You hand the handkerchief to Queen Anne Boleyn, observing all the strict historical rules of 16th century etiquette. She lightly touches your fingers, and her regal hand feels as cold as marble. She quietly thanks you, and in her voice you hear the resignation of a woman who understands her fate. You return to your place by the door, feeling time inexorably drawing closer to noon. We have yet to examine the final, grim aspect of a lady-in-waiting's morning reality at the Tudor court. We move on to the next chapter, which will present the dry statistics of these young women's fates. This duty of espionage shatters the lives of young ladies-in-waiting far more effectively than hard physical labor. You realize that the luxurious court of the great King Henry VIII demands the most terrible price in exchange for gold. It is impossible to remain innocent here. Politics forces one to become either a traitor or a victim. Your misty morning is drawing to a close, but this political nightmare is only just beginning to unfold. You are preparing to hear the grim statistics that will sum up our journey. We open the 7th chapter of our sweeping scenario, filled with dry, terrifying facts. The clock strikes exactly 12 noon, marking the end of this morning ritual for the ladies-in-waiting. You stand in the chambers and look at the remaining dozens of young women surrounding Boleyn's luxurious throne. In total, approximately 60 ladies-in-waiting served at King Henry VIII's court during this historic period. All of them were daughters of England's finest families, seeking wealth, fame, and powerful patronage. But the stark historical statistics of their actual fates are enough to horrify any modern person. The lavish life at court all too often ended in an early death or complete oblivion. Let's take a closer look at these grim figures, preserved in old 16th century court documents. Of the 60 young women, exactly 7 ladies-in-waiting were subsequently officially executed on a wooden scaffold. They were accused of treason, disloyalty to the English king, or active participation in conspiracies. Among them were Anne Boleyn herself and her young, beautiful successor, Catherine Howard, a few years later. The end of their lives on the block under the blow of the axe became a terrifying bloody lesson for all of aristocratic England. The golden brocade of their dresses was forever stained crimson with the blood of the innocently slain. Even more horrifying are the statistics on the mortality rate of ladies-in-waiting from natural causes. Of this total, exactly 12 young women died in agony during their first or second childbirth. Medicine during the era of the great Tudors was powerless against childbed fever and postpartum hemorrhage. Giving birth in the 16th century was considered the most life-threatening ordeal for any noble woman. Neither wealth nor the powerful protection of the royal court could shield a lady-in-waiting from this fate. Young lives were cut short prematurely, amid terrible convulsions on the filthy beds of the family estates. The fate of the remaining surviving ladies-in-waiting of Anne Boleyn was also far from a fairy tale ending. Most of them lived out their old age in secluded, closed convents or remote estates in England. They spent their long, mature years in solitude, praying fervently for the salvation of their souls and to forget the past. Many were forever deprived of the chance to marry after the spectacular downfall of their royal mistress. The court scandal of 1536 cast a terrible stigma of disgrace upon their noble but now impoverished families. Their vivid memories of the golden days at Whitehall became a lifelong curse for them. You look at your lady-in-waiting friends now and realize the threat each of them faces. These young, beautiful faces, glowing in the midday rays of the Greenwich sun, are doomed to terrible trials. Tudor history is merciless toward people. It knows no saving exceptions for the nobility. You feel this dry, mathematical, cruel fact weighing on your mind with its inevitability. The stiff corset continues to squeeze your ribs, reminding you of the transience of existence within these stone walls. The luxury of the Tudor court pales in the face of this blood-chilling truth of life and early death. The scents of lipstick, church incense, and meat now seem like the stench of decay and imminent doom. You realize that the value of human life at the court of King Henry VIII was negligible. People were used here as mere convenient expendables to satisfy the tyrant's personal ambitions. Your family sent you here to save you from debt, but the ultimate price turned out to be too high. You would give all the gold in the world to return right now to your father's old, humble estate. But it is already impossible for any of us here to turn back the wheel of cruel history. The midday bell at Greenwich Palace continues to ring out, its hollow chime carried by the wind across the River Thames. Anne Boleyn slowly rises from her seat, preparing to make her entrance at the festive May tournament. Her silk handkerchief, embroidered with a white falcon, is clasped in her hand, and she is ready to play her final royal role. You obediently stand behind her, taking the heavy velvet train of her crimson dress in your hands. The procession of young ladies-in-waiting holds its breath, awaiting the command of the senior lady-in-waiting at the court of the great Tudors. The tension has reached its peak, and a historic upheaval is about to occur at any moment. You take a step forward across the dry reed flooring, feeling complete numbness throughout your body. A sharp, piercing pain in the joints of your fingers reminds you of the labor involved in dressing your mistress that morning. The hour spent styling her hair under the gable hood, and the 40 minutes of lacing her corset are now far behind you this morning. But ahead lies a far more terrifying and grueling test of the human psyche, the high politics of England. You must walk forward with your head held high and a feigned confident smile on your pale face. Such are the sacred bloody rules of survival for a lady-in-waiting in this golden Tudor trap. We have reached the final point of our detailed chronological journey into the morning of May 1st, 1536. Our story has helped shatter the glossy myths about the era and reveal the real suffering people. You were able to feel that bone-chilling cold, the hunger, the physical pain, and the fear of being accused of treason. The fate of the doomed Anne Boleyn and her 60 ladies-in-waiting will remain in the pages of history as an example of the greatest tragedy. We now move smoothly into the final part of our scenario, which will draw important conclusions from this journey. You take one last deep breath and follow the Queen toward her inevitable doom. Every historical fact has a physical flip side, hidden from the eyes of inattentive observers. We have attempted to reveal this hidden side through the lens of a single, ordinary, tense morning in the life of a maid to the Queen of England. The statistics of bloody executions and deaths at the court of Henry VIII will forever stand as a silent indictment of that cruel era. You have seen for yourselves that proximity to the Tudor throne was the most deadly occupation of the 16th century. Our script is drawing to its logical conclusion, leaving us alone with somber thoughts about the past. We now begin our conclusion. where the final, important words of today's investigation will be spoken. Our chronological journey into the foggy morning of Lady-in-Waiting Anne Boleyn has come to an end. We were able to trace the steps of this young woman, the daughter of a modest peer, on that fateful day, May 1st, 1536. History has revealed a picture of the past that is far removed from the beautiful fairy tales of historical romance novels. You personally felt the chill of the chapel's marble floors and the physical pain of the stiff corsets of Tudor attire. Tomorrow, May 2nd, 1536, will bring the Queen's arrest and the complete collapse of her loyal entourage. The story of the Boleyns will forever remain in the pages of English chronicles as an example of rise and fall. This scenario has vividly demonstrated to us the importance of studying the past through the lens of simple physical sensations. Behind the ceremonial portraits of Henry VIII always lay rivers of shed tears, betrayal, and a clinging fear of death. The lives of courtiers in the 16th century were filled with toil, a constant sense of hunger, and pervasive espionage. The status of a lady-in-waiting brought wealth, but in return demanded the harsh sacrifice of a woman's virtue and freedom. The grim statistics of executions and early deaths in childbirth illustrate this cruel, bloody price of power. We hope this journey has made you look at the great and terrifying Tudor era in a new light. The reality of the bygone Tudor centuries is all too often far darker than we all imagine. The beautiful, opulent castles of Greenwich and Whitehall were not places for balls, but stone prisons for people. Every person was forced to spy on their neighbor to save their own life on the wooden scaffold. The perfect handwriting on ancient parchment always concealed the blind, weary eyes of nameless scribes. In the same way, the golden brocade of the dresses concealed deep, bloody calluses caused by the ladies-in-waiting's corsets. The true past always smells of dampness, sweat, cheap, dirty candle wax, and the fear of treason. If you enjoyed this investigation, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and share your personal impressions in the comments. Tell us honestly in the comments, could you personally have survived in such conditions at the Tudor court?